Okay, great. Thank you. I am J.O. Helding. My presentation is this about semi-domestic reindeer and large linear infrastructures. Road mortality, fencing, barrier effects, passage use. So not only mortality. We'll see how well this presentation fits within the theme of the session. And what I will present is a case, so it's sort of a narrative, rather. Which I have presented together with Anna-Karin Mangi, a previous student and now a good colleague, and she is also a reindeer herder. Like that. Semi-domestic for reindeer means that they roam free most of the year in mountain and forest areas, and pretty much follow their, what we could call natural or prehistorical routes and ranges used. But they are also at times gathered and herded and marked, and they are individually owned and tended also to a degree. And this has been labeled a social ecological system, which sort of requires the interrelatedness between animals, herders, and the land. And this is the area where this social ecological system extends in Norway, Sweden, and Finland in the north of Europe. It also extends into Russian Kola Peninsula, but we don't know so much about that system. So it extends from mountainous areas, actually also tundra areas in the far north, down to boreal forest. And I have on a previous conference, I presented another case together with another co-author from the Gabna village, the Gabna reindeer herd. And you can find that presentation still on YouTube. But on this conference, I will give you the tale of the Liehittäjä herd, which is a herd that is regulated to around 1,200 individuals, 1,200 animals in the winter population, so slightly a bit more in the autumn population, which ranges over 1,500 square kilometers of mainly lowland boreal forest and wetlands, and all the way out into the coast and archipelago of the North Bay of Bothnian Sea. And the sources of information we have for this presentation, are various type of interviews and participatory observation, traditional knowledge, planning documents, roadkill protocols, to some extent GPS positioning, and camera trapping. So we try to use these type of different type of data sources or information sources to make sort of a picture of the situation. And the animals, the reindeer in this area, they have an annual migration cycle, which is depending on seasonal requirements. So seasonal requirements to get to different areas. In the winter, they spend mainly near the coast or in the archipelago, feeding on lichens, and to a degree, actually to an increasing degree, supplied fodder. Then in the spring, they seek undisturbed areas for calving, and these would be inland, where the level of human disturbances are considerably much lower. Then in early summer, they start to increasingly spread out in the landscape to find natural pastures for grazing and browsing, and not least for escaping insect harassment, which may actually be lethal to these creatures. And in summer, they increasingly spread over the landscape. They gradually go over into feeding on fungi, and also increasingly start to move southwards and also at around this time of the year, when the rutting is coming, they start to gather again. And later, like in October, November, they gather even more for the autumn migration. And then in the winter, they end up again out in the coast, near the coast or in the archipelago. So actually, over the course of the year, they describe a migration pattern with a total distance of around 100 kilometers. And because the seasonal resources that they require are geographically separated. But if we look at the area where this herd ranges and the main migratory directions that they take, these are intersected by a number of large transport infrastructures. There are a lot of roads, there are 2 railways, and at least 2 large, or at least 3 large power lines. And the 2 infrastructures which are probably the most critical are the road and the railway in the south, near the coast. And I will present these 2 specifically a bit more. If we start with the road, this is a highway which we have seen increasing traffic and also an increasing amount of fencing and railing, what you can see on the picture here, which also causes a problem for reindeer, actually, even though it's a small obstacle maybe, and also a much larger problem with road salting, because road salt, I will come back to that. The highway, which is called E4, it basically has no safe crossings. It has one crossing, actually, which is separated. So it's an overpass. But you can see that on the picture there. It's a small picture. Hopefully you can still see it. It's a small picture because it's a small road. No, it's a small bridge. It's very narrow and it's very unnatural. So it was built as a reindeer bridge, but I can tell it's really inferior. It doesn't really does it work. As you can see on the picture on the graph, this is the number of unique individuals that has been used that bridge per day. So you can see it's even in the autumn, like October, November, which is the peak autumn migration period, there was in total only like 15 to 20 individuals using that bridge. And I told you already that there will be like 1,200 at least in this population. So it doesn't really do the whole work. Then there is also a number of openings in the fence. I don't know if you can see it really on this map, but it's the black parts which are fence openings. But the problem with these are, okay, the reindeer can pass there, but then there is also this yummy salt on the road in early winter. So the animals go up there and stay there and get caught between fences and some are also killed. Actually, quite a few are killed in the last years, between 30 and 50. So that would be a big problem. Of course, a big problem for the individuals that are killed. Some are also just hurt, of course. This represents roughly 8% of the annual reproduction. But also, because this is a social ecological system, it also affects the people, the owners, because this is an economic loss. This is just one side of the coin, because it's not like the reindeer owners just let it be like that. Actually, they put huge efforts into decreasing the number of road-killed animals and to help them getting over and away from the road, because this is critical. Otherwise, it would probably much higher number of road-killed reindeer. So actually, in economic terms, this work with keeping animals away from the road, feeding them away from the road, and tending for or managing traffic victims and so is the larger economic loss or economic cost in this herding system. Just as within brackets, a large overpass is now under construction here, and probably this will be linked to increased fencing also. So, and we'll see, maybe in the next AINE conference, the results from follow-up from this overpass will be presented. I don't know actually about the details, but I just assume that the use will be monitored. So hopefully the situation will be improved. Going to the railway, Haparanda-banan, which was finalized or built like 10-15 years ago. This is effectively fenced, and also it has 15. So that means in effect that road kills are almost zero, or railway kills are almost zero. But it has one dedicated fauna overpass and 14 underpasses, which are sort of some of which are semi-dedicated to animals also. So that actually looks rather good. What we did was picking out 5 of these, the 5 that we thought was most promising in an animal perspective, and follow up the use of those. And I don't know if you can see it. It's maybe a little bit too small, but this is again the number of unique individuals that used these 5 passages per day during October to November. There is around 10 individuals using it, each of these bridges every day. So summing up, there is around 700 unique individuals passing through either of these 5 crossings each year. So that pretty much, I don't know exactly, of course, but pretty much that relates to the population of this herd. Thanks. Interestingly, to look at the spring migration, almost no animals go north when we were monitoring them. And this is because the reindeer community, the herding community here have decided not to take all the obstacles in the northwards migration, but gather them and transport them by truck instead in the spring migration. So the spring migration happens, but with truck. Just one short seconds about large power lines also. It may be a surprise that these can also impact reindeer. We know that they can impact birds. Yes, they can also impact 4-foot animals because they may be distracted by construction work and by noise and light from these structures, and also increased human access. But I will not touch more about them, but coming up to the summing up. So inferior mitigation, which we argue we can see at the E4 motorway today, at least. It causes not only concern for the animals, of course, but also for the herders. It causes intensive management and economic losses and risks and inconveniences. But the natural migratory system endures. The animals can still reach their seasonal resources, but it's under increasing pressure. And in the other case with the railway, we see that mitigation done right actually helped the problem. And to lift this general message to a slightly higher level, thanks. Ungulate migrations are disappearing globally on an alarming rate. I'm quoting Kaufman in Science, that ungulate migrations, they are fundamental for ecological ecosystems, fundamental ecological processes, and also fundamental for the small-scale sustainability of human livelihoods. And in the case of the reindeer, which we have seen, is that we can see that it endures exactly because it is a social ecological system and not only an ecological system, because that would have decayed already a long time ago, because animals would not have been able to reach the destination, so to speak, and not being able to sustain in this landscape. So we argue that infrastructure managers should address also the potential impacts on free-ranging domestic animals and on traditional husbandry. Thank you.
Awesome. And perfectly on time, so thank you very much. Any questions from the audience? Yes, Rod?
Thank you. Thanks, Jo. How do you identify individual reindeer? Is it by their colouring or something?
Good question. They are not all wild color like the caribou, like the wild caribou, but they may have white spots, and some of them are darker and lighter. And so then they have very different shape of the antlers. And, you know, all individuals have antlers, including the young and the females and so. And some are marked also. And then they have markings made by people also, some with colors and with cutting in the hair and so. So that's, I wouldn't say it's easy, because we had a reindeer herder to do that, to really have the right eyes for it also.
And within that herd of 1,200 reindeer, there's multiple herders. So that herd is made up of, one person's got 50 reindeers, another one's got 70. And
I could have like a 2 hours presentation also to get into those details. But basically there are 5 employed herders working more with 5 persons working more with this group. But then in total, it's like a few hundred probably engaged.
Good. Any more? Yes.
Just one observation I made. I was driving from Luleå in the direction of Kiruna with a 4-wheel drive car. And then I was detecting a herd of reindeers, and I was slowing down. And then suddenly a truck with full speed overtook me and immediately saw the herd. So, and this is not a single observation. I guess that this is something which is a really problem for the environment here.
Truckers probably have their time schedule, which is not adapted to reindeer on the road. And one tragic thing with that road you were going is that it's on these heathlands with all the lichens, where reindeer need to go in winter to feed, because it's super good to build roads on, because it's dry and it's a bit highland. So that's where many of the roads are actually built, in the winter habitat for reindeer.
Thanks.